If you look over the last 100 years, the way faith transmission and faith formation has happened has gone through kind of a couple of big eras. If we go back to the first 50 years of the 1900s, it was all at home. It was grandmas and grandpas sharing faith and faith practice at home. Ethnic groups transmitted faith traditions. So whether it was Roman Catholic or Episcopal or Lutheran, ethnicity was a carrier for faith traditions and practices. And then gradually, starting in the 1960s, church faith formation became more like school education. So we developed Sunday school classes. I mean, there had always been Sunday school, but it was always secondary to the family and to the whole church. But Sunday school took primary. We developed developmental understandings. We had textbooks, grade levels, and faith formation became more church-centered than home-centered. And the parents' role was the sport was going on, make sure their children were there, come to worship, etc. Well, over 40 or 50 years, that model has kind of, in a sense, run its course as the dominant model. And so we now have tons of research. Vern Bengston and his colleagues did a marvelous study on faith formation over 40 years with the same families to talk about the role that grandparents and parents play in modeling faith, transmitting faith. So we're recovering some of that understanding. The National Study on Youth and Religion, all of Christian Smith's work, really points to parents as the primary religious and social influence in the lives of children and teens. And we also recognize that as opposed to 20 years, 40 years, 100 years ago, we just have less time with children and much less time with parents who've been kind of sidelined. So our slice of attention in the church is so much less. So if we don't work with the families, who's the primary way in which faith is transmitted, in all their diversity and all their complexity, we're never going to have enough time in the church to do faith transmission. We could do faith formation, ministry, children's ministry, youth ministry, but it's going to be limited. The whole transmission of a faith and a way of life is really a home and a family enterprise. So we need to recover that insight. It doesn't mean giving up what we do at church, but putting it into a bigger perspective that the home is the primary context, the congregation needs to support the home. And that's the transformation of the narrative, that the church isn't going it alone. The church is meant to support, encourage, equip the family for faith practice. And that reimagines, really, the role the church plays in all of this. The funny thing about that insight is that parents transmit faith whether they want to or not. They can transmit a Christian faith intentionally, or they can transmit no faith or everything in between. What's happened in family life, and every family knows this, is that families have outsourced lots of the roles that families used to have 100 years ago. Athletics, education, economics, leisure, all those things have been outsourced, so that the modern day parent oftentimes is a manager and a driver for all the activities of the children and kids. Well, we need to just help them recover the fact that they are the primary influence. And they know that instinctively. And so when I work with parents or work with the churches who are working with parents, I just tell them to keep on reinforcing the fact that they are the primary influence. Whether it's a two-parent original biological family, a blended family, whatever the shape or form, a single-parent family, all those, that their influence is second to none. And then to help the church realize we've got to guide, support them. In too many places, churches approach families as if the parents, as if they were the problem to be solved. They're the solution. But we have to find new ways of working with them because they're much more diverse than parents were 25 or 30 years ago. They reflect a whole diversity of religious and spiritual identities. They're involved a lot in church or involved not in church at all. They're sending their kids, but they're not participating. We have all that diversity. And the last thing we need to do is to judge families. We need to serve families. And I always talk about it at workshops. We need to tell families, we've got your back. We want to support you, we want to encourage you, we want to equip you. Wherever you are on the journey, we're ready to walk with you. That's a whole transformation in the way we think about families.